Last back chat, the better. All right, off the top.
Well, I'm Lyle Hyde. I'm a board member of Common Cause Illinois, and I represent, on occasion, public citizen here in the Chicago area. We are coming together today in this rally, which is being sponsored by several not-for-profit organizations, including Common Cause, Public Citizen, Illinois PIRG, Move to Amend, MoveOn, Coffee Party. There's a long list that have come together in the last few months to organize this rally on the 3rd anniversary of the terrible Supreme Court ruling in Citizens United versus Federal Elections Commission, and related cases such as Speech Now, which came 6 months later in Washington from the from the D.C. Court of Appeals, is what it led to the immediate explosion of all the super PACs. So we are also concerned about what we see as a very undemocratic legal doctrines that underlie these decisions. The proposition that coming out of the Buckley v. goes all the way back to Buckley v. Vallejo in 1976, in which, in effect, I'm not an attorney, but in effect, as I understand it, the use of money or the spending of money was considered a sine qua non, or the functional equivalent of speech. They were so closely linked together as to be almost exactly the same thing. And the other principle, of course, is the one going back to corporate personhood itself, and the gradual extension over the last century of various amendments under the constitutions and protections that they have a great many now, and this most recent decision extended First Amendment free speech rights to corporations to allow them to give as much money as they wanted, and Speech Now for individuals as much money as they wanted to political campaigns as long as they were so-called independent groups. So we're hoping for a big turnout today for the rally to express solidarity, that the ultimate goal, of course, long-term goal, is to pass the 28th Amendment to the Constitution to address these rulings, to overturn these rulings, and also to address the principles under them so that we can return political sovereignty in our country to the people.
Well, let's take them one at a time, beginning with Citizens United and going back to the concept of corporate personhood. And as you said, the sine qua non, money equals speech.
My understanding from what I've read and been told, of course, is that the original concept of corporate personhood was finally finalized in the 1886 Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad decision in California. It was an obscure tax law about fences that the railroad had put in, and were they improvements that could be taxed. It was basically a boring tax case. But there had been a build-up over time among the federal courts about how to treat this new entity, which is not mentioned in the Constitution, and they had to find a way to treat it in the law, the corporation. But the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at that time, Morrison Waite, in response to a clerk's question about our corporations, people are in law, are they, it's a legal fiction, but are they to be treated as persons in law? And Justice Waite said, we're not going to visit that question in this case in Santa Clara County, but we're all of the agreement that it is. So the proposition that corporations are persons in law was never adjudicated, it was never debated, it was never voted in the Supreme Court. The justice just made a declaration on the top of the case that we consider them to be persons, and that became legal precedent. Of course, there's a long period of this back and forth, but the Buckley v. Vallejo decision many years later in '76 as part of the or rather the post-Watergate backlash, is the case where the court, the decision was apparently a very confusing one. The lawyers disagree, but in Buckley v. Vallejo, as I understand it, the court decided that donations to political campaigns and candidates can legally be limited, but that expenditures cannot be limited because they are tantamount to a form of speech which cannot be limited.
And these were funds that were funneled into CREEP.
That I don't know.
Oh, I didn't want to. I'm sorry.
I know what the acronym is, Committee to Re-elect the President. But Buckley v. Vallejo was '76, so this was after Nixon was impeached and left.
So,